So we have G major, G minor. Cool, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make some major sevens, or some dominant sevens and then some minor sevens. So let's start with the dominant seven, only because it's probably the most common one. This is if you ever see a chord that just says, like, say, G7 or A7. They're very bluesy chords right there. So yeah. So very bluesy. Cool. And what we're going to do with those is just show you what goes on. So first of all, here's our major shape. To get into our dominant 7 shape, very, very easy. Again, it's really subtracting or adding a finger with these shapes. We're going to take the pinky off, and there's your dominant 7. Not major, your dominant 7. Cool. So what we have is 1, 3. That's a flat 7 in there, and then we have a 3 again, another 5, and then the 1. So what I changed there is I took this pinky note, and here's where you really got to focus, is I took that pinky note on this string, which is a G, and I removed it, which really took this note, moved it down 2 frets or a whole step. And I made it what? I made it a 7, dominant 7. So in the major scale, this note's not actually there, so it's a flat 7, because in our major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 7 is actually an F sharp. So in a dominant 7 chord, it doesn't use the standard 7 of the scale, it flats it. Cool. You hear that? So we get that bluesy sound. Cool. So it's not just a 1, 3, 5, 7, it's a 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So remember that, that's the rule for the dominant. So really quick, major 1, 3, 5, minor 1, flat 3, 5. Dominant 7, 1, 3, flat 7, and a 5. Or 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Cool. Make sense? Good. Cool, again, movable shape. Very pretty chord. Cool. So that's the most common one you'll see. Now the difference between that one and, say, a major 7 is the way it's notated. It's always going to say D7, a D major 7. They're two different chords. In our case, it's G. So if you see a G7, it's the bluesy chord. Okay? It's not the major 7, which I'm going to show you next. Sometimes people will notate and just put a 7 and mean a major 7, but a major 7 will actually have capital M, A, J next to it, and then the 7 following it, or at least it properly should. So just be aware for that. I've been caught a few times, or I've played the dominant 7, and they said, oh no, I wanted the major 7. I said, well, you didn't notate that. So, happens more often than you think. Let's go to our minor 7s now. Again, we're sticking with the E string so we can move up and down. Cool. So here now we learned our major chord, we learned our minor, we got our dominant 7. Cool. So we're bluesing, we're rocking, and we have sad chords. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make it a major 7. So now we're going to get into that major territory where we're going to have our dreamy sounds. So really quick, let me play you the chord. Cool. Pretty chord, isn't it? So as you can see, it kind of looks a lot like what I'm doing. There's really not much movement going on within these chords. We're just changing notes here and there. So let's break down what a major 7 is. So here are my notes, and see if you can kind of spot what I'm doing here. All I do is change my fingering up, but I still got the bar going on in there, which means I still have my root in G. So the chord still contains a 1, still contains a 5, but here's where it changes. You hear that note right there? And just to focus on those 3 notes, there's my 7. Now it's not a flat 7, a raised 7, it's just the 7 of the scale. In our G scale, it's the F sharp. So far my chord is made up of G, D, and F sharp. Cool. So that's a 1, a 5, and a 7. We also, oops, sorry about that, a 1, a 5, a 7, then I'm right here on the 4th fret, which is my B again, or my 3rd. So what I have in a 7th chord is straight across, 1, 3, 5, and 7. So you got your major triad plus a 7 on top of that. Cool. Now again, you notice I have 6 notes in here because the last 2 again are repeating. Here's a D and there's another G. Cool. So don't look how many notes are in there. Remember, we're just putting them together to make the chord. A chord itself is made up of the intervals or the scale notes. Because we have duplicates of them is okay. It's just giving us a bigger chord. So again, a major 7 chord. The frets are, if you're having a little trouble seeing what I'm doing, is going to be 3, 5, 4, 4. And I'm going to rearrange my fingers. You can play the chord really any fingering that works for you. The one I found best is first finger, pinky, second finger, third finger. And then of course the bar up here. And you can also kind of get away with it like that. It tends to sound a little more minorish though if you do that. So I recommend really kind of working into this shape and getting your major 7 to sound properly. If that's a little too hard, you can focus on 3, 5, 4, or just the 1, the 5, and the 7 to really make it sound closest to it. Cool, so it gets into that major territory right there. And again, those are the chords that sound really cool, and they sound a little bit different. So you mess around with those, and they're very dreamy. Cool, so you can definitely mess around with those.